Ineffable Being, how are you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful, magical day. I want to tell you that you are a genius, you are special, you mean the world, and you are loved. Ineffable family, today we're going to discuss how to love yourself. We're going to discuss how to love yourself because in these times, so much political action, so much corruption, we got a virus loose, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now on the planet with our jobs, families, relationships, and having a foundation, having someone to fall back on that is yourself. Well, there isn't a stronger foundation. There might be turbulent times. You might lose your job, you might have a fallout with some family members, or you might break up with your partner. But loving yourself is going to be a very fundamental way, an instrument to being able to reach what you want in this life. Because if you can't count on anyone, you should at least be able to count on yourself. Well, getting into today's topic, what is the problem with love? Well, the first thing about love is we don't understand it for ourselves. We learn love through others. And this is reflected in society whenever you're being raised. Your parents show you love the best way that they can, based on their upbringing, based on their past experiences, and now all of this is how they are going to treat you, how they're going to love you. But oftentimes, we don't really get the love that we want. Now, every single person is going to require a different taste, a different color, some different actions. And this is very important to understand that whenever we're being raised, from the moment we are in the womb, we are already beginning to create memory, cellular memory at that point, but nevertheless memory. We're receiving all the toxins, all the chemicals, all the emotional quotients of our mother and her external environment through vibrations. And that begins to create a certain type of memory. And once we get out of the womb, our life is a lot more heavy on us. So about the first 7 years of our life, the brain is operating in that delta very low frequency. So this means that the brain is literally a sponge. It is being able to absorb all the information and without a filter. So not only are we seeing how people in our environment is treating us, but on an unconscious level, we're seeing how our parents interact. All the things that are going on in the news, how our parents feel about the economy, about finances, about health. And there's also the external relationships to the other world, how our family interacts with the environment. So all of these things begin to mold us. And another problem with love is we don't know the actual emotion. So if we're sad, it's pretty easy to identify that. If I'm happy, it's also pretty easy to identify that. But whenever we get into this high vibration that we call love, or our logic begins to break down. And that's why in this channel I discuss elevated emotions, because I'm sure there's times that we're so exuberant in energy, whether it be we have a raise or the person that we long for, they accepted to go out on a date. Or let's say that we just bought the car that we want. We can't really tell if this is happiness, if this is bliss, if this is ineffability, or if this is love. So on this channel, I discuss elevated emotions because it's that high range synapses of all of these emotions. And love, we can say, is one of the highest vibrations. This isn't some guru mumbo-jumbo tree-hugging nonsense. This is something that with electroencephalography can be measured. When we also have epigenetics that is able to tell us our gene expression. And this is all caused by our environment. So there's a couple tools that we could look at, and let's look at one last problem with love, and that is that we are very desensitized. What does this mean? Desensitized means basically we have lost that connection, we have lost that emotional connection, we can't really feel into our environment. And this is very easy to understand if we look at the past other problems. Because from the moment that we're born, we're out in the environment, our parents are going to love us to the best of their ability. But what happens is that we are not true to ourselves in nature because we are at this very young age, we're not taught how to communicate, far less how to use our faculties to express our environment and accordingly. So what happens is we begin to desynthesize, we begin to create polarity within ourselves. We were born with a certain genetic signature. We're born with certain qualities and tendencies that throughout life, throughout our upbringing, we begin to put into closets. So this is what desynthesizing means, that we're not really being able to access or express our true authentic being. And this again is all wrapped up with how our upbringing occurred. And that we don't really understand love as an emotion. Rather, it's more of an idea. We believe if we are in a relationship, then probably I am in love. But we fail to understand the simple science that these are chemicals. In order for us to be feeling love, there have to be certain chemicals. And a lot of the time, for the great many of us, we don't know how to access this chemical. So then we believe we are in love, or that we're feeling love, or that we're so happy whenever we're doing X, Y, and Z. So this is what desynthesizing means, and these are the problems with love. So now the question is, well, how do we actually love ourselves? How do we go about transmuting my past, which is disconnection, is falling out of equilibrium? It is not being in homeostasis. It is being desynthesized to my emotions and simply not ever actually being able to express love or receive love that I want. So now I'm creating an alter ego. I'm creating an image of myself for the external environment based on my past experiences. And I can recall back to my relationships. I had ex-girlfriend, and this is the type of, this is the best way that I could treat her. And then I had another relationship, Y relationship, and I noticed that, hey, what I used here isn't really going to work out here. So there I am, again, changing directions, changing routes, trying to accommodate to my external reality. So, how to love yourself? Well, there's a couple things we got to focus on. And we're going to see a lot of this is very pragmatic stuff. There are mechanistic steps that we can take to loving ourselves. So the first thing is focus on your emotions, but in a literal sense. And what I'm saying is be a little bit more conscious of how things make you feel. Stop thinking about how your actions are going to make your parents feel, your boss feel, or your partner. You got to focus on yourself, and then you're going to be able to begin to open yourself up to the dimension of emotions. And beyond that, we have to disconnect from the analytical mind. The analytical mind is whenever you're operating in the high alpha, really out of coherent alpha and into that very uncoherent beta, where your external environment, where all of your energy is focused on your external environment. This is we call the analytical mind because all of your attention is focused externally and it's trying to gauge, well, what is the best color? What is the best route to work? What should I eat? What should I wear? It's very in polarity. And that's simply because the way of our biology. We got our senses. Our senses are all externally bound. I can't close my eyes right now and check my intestines, check that my heart is doing good. Isn't it so? So learning how to focus on your emotions and begin to start disconnecting from your analytical mind, you'll begin to open up your heart more because in this space, it is pure. There is love and there is no past and future, which is number three, disconnecting from the past and future. Whenever you begin to disconnect from the analytical mind, make decisions based on your true nature, based on your true emotions, and not trying to predict the best route, not trying to predict a future without ever even moving, then you enter into the present moment. And all of this, what should I do? I don't love myself, that doesn't come from the present moment. Your present moment is being created. The illusion of your present moment is being created from how all of your past experiences have impacted you and all the impressions that it has left in your brain and where you want to go in the future. So for example, in the past, if you treated someone a certain way and you did not receive what you wanted out of the situation, that left an impression that created a neurological network in your brain. So now you know, oh wow, well if I treat this person this way, I'm not going to receive or win the situation. So then in the future, once a similar situation occurs, you're going to act based on that past experience. Now, I know this sounds very good, and we're like so grateful that we're such an amazing animal, we're such an amazing species that we can use the past. We have a vision of future, and in the present, I can act accordingly. But we have a couple faculties that are not being accessed, like our emotions, our higher faculties like imagination, consciousness, and our heart. So we believe we're making the best decisions based on the past experience. Let's look at an experience that is a little bit better to understand and drive in this point. So in the past, you applied for a job, you studied, you worked, you thought you had the job, you go and apply, and you don't get the position. That is also going to create a neurological network in the brain. And the emotional quotient of this experience is going to be recorded in the body. Well, for the great many of us, we can accept that nobody wants to be rejected. And the way that the human being works, that the Homo sapien, that this advanced animal, the most advanced species on the planet operates is that, well, it's not going to naturally put itself in situations of being rejected. The body doesn't innately want to suffer. So the mechanism to this, well, it's kind of about where we talked about self-doubt and insecurities last week. So go watch that video. But if I got rejected in the past, my body doesn't want to experience this negative reality again. So what happens is, if we're not accessing our higher faculties, our conscious, our imagination, our will, our spirit, our heart, then in the present moment, I want a new position because I want a new salary, because I want a new house. But the thing is, I'm going to remember, oh, I didn't get the job last time that I applied and I worked so hard. So the brain is going to tell you that you're not worthy enough, that you're not going to receive this job. So what the brain is actually doing is trying to predict a future based on a past experience. And what living through the heart is changing that paradigm. Instead of predicting a future from an experience that you have already lived in the past, living through the heart means predicting the future based on the unknown, based on where you are in the present moment, and moving in that direction. And the last thing is, we have to be pragmatic. To be able to love yourself wholly and holistically, and also create loving experience in your interior and for your exterior world, you have to be pragmatic. You can't just believe that everything is just going to fall in your lap. And what I'm saying is, we have to be a little bit mechanistically. We have to think mechanistically here. There are steps that go into this. You can't just have a desire for $1,000,000 and it's not just going to happen. You can't cry yourself to sleep every night because, and I know these are heavy words, but we can't just cry ourselves to sleep because our anxiety, our depression, things that I have experienced in my past, that I am every day climbing up battle to overcome, but I am mechanistically doing things to overcome these things because I understand that in order for me to create the life that I want, I'm going to have to become a new version of myself, a version that doesn't have self-doubt, a version that does not have anxieties, a version that loves myself, because this is going to create the emotional quotient inside of me that's going to open up my brain. It's going to present new thoughts. And based on these new thoughts, I will make new decisions. And these new decisions is going to create a new life. Isn't it so? Ineffable family, please put down in the comments if you received value from this video. And if you did not receive value, please also share with me that down in the comments. Lastly, please put what topics you would like for me to cover in the future. I hope to see you next week in the side of light. Goodbye.